What's up, guys? Here to do the latest discussion on the latest chapter of Fairy Tail the manga. First and foremost, spoiler alert warning, as you guys already know. Um, I actually quite enjoyed this chapter. Was it the best chapter in the entire history of manga? No, but it had some decent, solid parts. Um, the one thing I thought could have been done more is they could have stayed in not female form, child form for longer, and they could have played on this sort of disability longer, but they did not. I mean, how long did this last? Like one chapter, 1.5 chapters, and there really wasn't any point to it. They were all turned younger, and they had their abilities sort of diminished, and they got beat up slightly, and then when worse came to worse, they became old again. And so it was a slight setback. It was a slight sort of cliffhanger, but even the cliffhanger wasn't done in a way where it was like, oh no, they're going to die. It was kind of done in the middle of this chapter with Urza about to die. And so I thought this could have potentially gone on for like the rest of the arc, but I guess it's a good thing that they chose to sort of vitalize Urza and her boobs. I mean, that was a very clear thing there. The breast, it was very noticeable in the panel. So moving on from this perverted stuff, we do have to get onto the other topics. And the first thing is that I think I mentioned this a few times already. I said that as far as this disability goes, I never really considered it a huge disability, and I was proved right in this chapter with Gray. And Gray has come up because when I first heard about this, and up until now, I'm thinking, sure, your physical capabilities are a lot less powerful, and sure, maybe you can't use as powerful spells as noted by Gray's Ice Make Hammer, but you retain the most important stuff, which is your memories and all your knowledge. And that's sort of a key thing that I find in a lot of manga series and in real life. But as of course, it still makes kind of a little bit of sense because even in DBZ, when again, spoiler, when Goku no, it was DBGT, when Goku reverted to child form, he still has some physical disabilities that hindered him. So yes, I do agree with that, but at the same time, I mean, especially with Gray, he definitely supported me and proved this point in this chapter by showing how sure, he can't use his abilities, but in a lot of scenarios, your mind beats out stuff. I mean, in One Piece, that's not always the case. That's almost never the case. But you can do tremendously well. I.e., again, spoiler alert, Luffy versus Usopp fight. Usopp used a lot of brains. Anyhow, back to Fairy Tail. And sorry for rambling on about other mangas, but as far as this chapter goes, very solid chapter. I did, at the end of the day, like that they reverted back to their adult forms. In this chapter, you really got these sort of panels where they were definitely and deliberately drawn as adult figures, whereas before many times they were drawn as sort of teenage / young adult figures. The physique of a lot of characters, especially Gray, in one panel was strictly adult form, and so you can see that they've either grown up or this is just some slight subtle thing. And on top of that, there's a few other things to note. In terms of the actual storyline, it was a very simple sort of plot. Not much happened, but looking at the villain, I forgot what his name was, but he has that strange mustache and mouth. You guys know who I'm talking about. It seems like at first you saw that dark sort of, like he turned pitch black, and then we revert away from him for about ages, we're left to wonder what exactly happened that sort of canceled his magic, which made everyone younger. And I knew from that panel that he couldn't have just been defeated, and he wasn't. And I was thinking, oh, he's now going to go full power mode, and he does at the end. And I'm like, is this Diliora? Sorry, I forgot his. Is that how you say his name, Diliora? Probably not, but you know who I'm talking about. The big giant beast who ended up killing Gray's master. And so that's what I thought at first. Maybe this is a reincarnation. Maybe the first one didn't actually die. And then it turns out, nope. First off, well, we know for a fact that what happened was, no, this is Book of Zera, which reminds me again that Diliora, I think I'm saying the monster's name wrong, but this monster was also sort of from the Book of Zera, and so it sort of brought me to a sort of state where I was thinking about Zera and his magic again, and beyond this chapter, because what we're seeing is all this sort of magic that sort of tells you what sort of person Xerath was and what sort of magic he used. And from what we know, Xerath was some sort of prodigy magician who used dark magic, which we can assume to be magic that's illegal or maybe immoral. And so he used this and apparently developed this sort of strange magic. And then we see it here again, and it seems to be some sort of dark beast magic, demonic magic. And so it looks pretty cool at the same time, slightly kiddish, which is why I can talk about it and just be very lackadaisical about it, because Fairy Tail does this thing where they draw the characters and the whole plot and scenery and storyline is still very innocent and naive. Naive is the wrong word, but innocent and not scary. And so it's not like I'm playing Dead Space or Amnesia or D. Grayman here, which is scarier, which is in certain ways a good thing, because if you want to go to these sort of dark magic roots, it can get very scary if you go realistic. And so it's still very innocent in a way, just because of how the characters and the manga is drawn. Anyhow, the point is, we get a little taste of how, which leads me to the end of my discussion of the chapter and the start of my discussion of the entire manga series. And so what I'm thinking is, obviously what seems to have happened is Xerath he's not thinking the same anymore. We don't know exactly what happened with him. He's a child now. So my theory is that he was an old man who had achieved immortality in some form or another. He sort of did something to himself where he made his magic go to sleep and then himself go to sleep, thus reverting him to this sort of childlike form and nullifying most of his magic. Granted, he's still very powerful, as we've seen, but a lot of his magic is nullified. And so he's sort of like, from what we've seen, he sort of repented in his ways, and sort of decided to purify the world and rid the world of all evils he's experienced. So the problem is he's doing that in a sort of horrific way. If you remember the chapter with him facing off against the Fairy Tail first guild leader, guild master, so what I see here is that in terms of power level, I feel like Xerath at 4 power level is the strongest, and I mean the two ones are obviously Acnologia and Xerath, the two biggest, but I feel Acnologia is weaker than Xerath. In fact, I think I'm going to do a whole video on this topic. So I'm going to end this here and then do a whole video on that topic. So thanks for watching, and as always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe.